All right, and next we're going to hear from the leading Disney princess, but first I want to share with you some groundbreaking announcements. This is from New York Attorney General Letitia James announcing new legislation to increase funding for healthcare in her state. Let's take a look.
We're here today to announce new legislation to protect and expand access to abortion. This new bill, sponsored by State Senator Cordell Clear and Assemblymember Jessica Gonzalez Rojas, will create a dedicated state program that will give financial resources to abortion providers in our state. Again, give financial resources to abortion providers in our state. And these funds will help New Yorkers who need financial support to seek abortions. And it will also provide and support the influx of individuals who have and will continue to come to New York from other states to seek abortions. Because if Roe is overturned, 26 states will ban and or are likely to ban abortion.
That's New York State Attorney General Letitia James leading the charge. Quite actually leading the charge. Eric Schmidt, are you listening? And then there's a part B to this press conference here I want to show you.
There are trigger laws currently in place that will result in a complete ban in some states. At this point in time, I think it's really critically important that individuals, including Minority Leader McConnell, understand that the vast majority of Americans believe in the right to choose, believe in abortion, believe in safe abortions, and that we do not want to go backwards.
And, you know, she's right. What... recent polls had shown, I mentioned earlier from AP, but I've seen other polling that has shown that less than 20% of Americans, according to some recent poll data, believe that abortion should be legal. Less than 20% believe it should be, or that it should be illegal. Let me try that again. So less than 20% of Americans believe that abortion should be illegal and criminal across the board, regardless of the circumstances. Less than 20%. Okay. The overwhelming majority of Americans have opted to agree with reason and science. And in the case of legislation across states that do not allow for things like treatment of ectopic pregnancies, which without treatment end up in bleeding to death and dying. They've chosen to opt with science, so let's go with that, right? The party of pro-life seems to be the party of pro-death, depending on the circumstances. So don't let that one fool you. Next, and speaking of those with no regard for reason or accountability, Ted Cruz weighs in on how overturning Roe v. Wade won't necessarily be all that bad. Let's take a look.
Kind of angry leftists, many of whom are pretty ignorant and don't even know what overturning Roe means, I think a month afterwards are going to be surprised, wait, nothing about my life changed. In other parts of the country that are not bright blue, in redder states, in states like Tennessee, states like Texas, you're going to see some meaningful restrictions on abortion, and it's going to vary state by state how extensive those restrictions are. That was the framers' view in the Constitution, is to let the rules in each state reflect the values of the citizens of those states. But in the redder states, there are fewer people that are going to be horrified by that.
Yeah, about that. And who is that? Who is that guy? I don't watch. Apparently, Ted Cruz has a podcast or something. I don't watch a Verdict with Ted Cruz, but like, who is that guy? Is that like the guy? You know, pull this up here. Who is this guy? Is this the guy who like changes Ted Cruz's socks or something? Like, who is this guy? It's just like, who is this guy? I have no idea. If you watch this crap, let me know, because I don't watch it. I don't really have time for all that. But let's. Oh my God! Finally, Ted Cruz weighs in on the election successes for Democrats in the fight of the Roe v. Wade decision. And I'll go into my opinion, not necessarily response, but my opinion on the topic here, because, I got some opinions about some things.
That the outcome is that the court does strike down Roe versus Wade. I can tell you Democrats in Washington are holding on to that as their Hail Mary chance to save the midterms. They believe that people will be horrified and that'll help them win. And I got to tell you, more
it makes a bunch of sense, however,
than a few Republican senators are nervous that's the case. There's several of us who are conservatives who've been trying to make the case to the nervous Nellies in our conference. It'll be okay. This is going to be fine. And I actually think it probably will not have much of an effect on the midterms, and to the extent it has an effect, it will be a positive effect. Here's why I think it will have less of an effect than the Democratic strategists think. Because the people who are most dismayed about that are hard leftists that are clustered in bright blue states like New York, California. Nothing's going to change in those states. That the outcome is
nothing's going to change in those states. And listen, to a point, let me just put it like this. I agree, but I disagree. And I'll tell you why that is. Okay, this is a decision that will affect many people in red states, obviously. As some who we might not have originally recognized as supporters have already been making their voices heard on behalf of, the pro-choice position, all over social media. And this is great news, or at least it should be. The problem I'm seeing, and why I agree with Ted Cruz, that it may not have such a negative impact on the GOP, is that in these red states, where some voters who haven't spent years or decades concerning themselves with these kind of issues, the swing voters, people who aren't typically interested in politics at all, people who vote on or, who vote when they feel that their morals, are aligned with the issue, right? They vote when they vote where their morals stand. And yes, I'm going to be the one to say it here, performative activists. The ones. They post nonsensical memes online to show their support and then go back to, words with friends, or, they go back to work, act like, nothing ever happened. They're doing it for social points. The ones who show up at protests to take a selfie, and get out of there before the plastic bags start getting thrown at, Nazis and they start pulling guns and shooting people. The very people, yes, they're doing it for social points, but that's a good thing. The very people who inadvertently and unknowingly are working to normalize an otherwise radical position in their community, these are the people we need. They're not the activists. They are not 100% on the issue, but they're part of the message. They are literally acting to normalize the message, again, in communities like, rural America, or rural Missouri, where these kind of topics are, otherwise taboo. Yes, it may not be the safest thing for them to just go out and scream at the top of their lungs, about their position or about their support for something that they would otherwise not agree with, or let's say the vast majority, at least at this time, of the community disagrees with, or doesn't know that they would agree with. Because seriously, how many people have actually read House Bill 2810? In the state of Missouri, let's be honest here, other than the folks who, are either doing what I do or are political activists or are out there, been doing the grunt work for decades. How many normal people, let's just call a spade a spade. How many normal people who go to job, work their 9 to 5, they're working at the grocery store, they're working at fast food, they're doing a construction job. How many of them you think have stopped and taken the time to be like, oh, let's see what Republicans are up to in my home state. Let's see what Brian Seitz, if he knows what he's talking about, or if I can just turn on Newsmax and just get my, my bullshit from there. But they very well, again, swing voters, people who are working to normalize these kinds of messages, they're being attacked by leftists who feel that they themselves are on the front lines who in turn are having their egos stroked by other people who are either too afraid to speak up and speak out, by those who actually think that a fraction of a minority can convince people to join their side and join their cause, by belittling others for wanting to join their side and join their cause and help. This might be the only reason why rural voters are afraid of Democrats, and why the reactionary right has been able to infiltrate school boards, as we've discussed before. I don't think it needs to be discussed. You already know. City councils, these small towns and communities. I mean, Republicans are on the park boards in small towns, for God's sakes. Okay? You know, not just here in Missouri, but across the country. I mean, you name it. They're on the park boards of towns that with names you can't pronounce. You know, the left just sucks at this, and it shows. The only blessing to come out of the reactionary left's reactionaryism, reacting, is that maybe, just maybe, regular people can identify this activity and put a stop to it, and start reaching out to regular people who don't spend their days and nights sitting alone in a room talking to a screen. How sad. Democrats lost in 2016 because they failed to get the message out that Hillary wasn't a worse choice than Donald Trump. Okay? You figure that out. Republicans won in 2016 because they literally will take any support from anyone that they can muster. I mean, Mitch McConnell and Marjorie Taylor Greene are both members of the same party. Okay, compare that to Joe Manchin and AOC, also members of the same party. Different, but closer, okay? Democracy requires votes. What it doesn't need is reactionaries scaring away potential votes. Beau of the Fifth Column. If you don't know about the guy, he's got a bigger beard than me, and he's pretty freaking smooth. He's got a great video about this, which I'll link down below. It's from 2021, where he compares this very thing, political activism, to a spear. You know, he says that if the idea is to change society, you have to change thought. You know, progressivism shouldn't have gatekeepers. I mean, these people are literally killing morale. And I mean, don't take my word for it. I'll show you how easy this should be. Just to the south, Arkansas Governor Asa Hutchinson.
What would you say to those women who seek an abortion, who don't have the money to travel, who don't have the money to raise a child? What would you say to them?
Well, first of all, again, that's where your heart goes out to them. I've had to deal with those very difficult circumstances of rape and incest as governor, and it's difficult. And so you have to understand that. You have to provide services, and I believe that we want to increase the services for maternal health, to increase the services for adoption services as well. And so we want to invest in those areas that will help those women with very difficult circumstances of the pregnancy. But secondly, I think to your point, the rape and incest exceptions will continue to be a part of the debate. Right now, we do not have rape and incest as exceptions under the Arkansas trigger law, but I think that will be a part of the debate.
Would you like to see those exceptions?
Those exceptions are important. Yes, I expressed whenever I signed the law that I would prefer the rape and incest exceptions to be in there. And even though we have the trigger law, I expect those exceptions to be a significant part of the debate in the future, even though we're going to immediately go to restrict abortions in the exceptions, with the exception of the life of the mother in danger.
Why do you support those exceptions?
Well, it's been even though we believe life begins at conception, that we try to save lives, the life of the unborn.
Blah, blah, blah. Doesn't even matter, okay? The point is that he's the governor, and he signed a bill that has no exceptions, okay? Look, this should be easy. This should be real easy. Especially in Missouri, especially in Arkansas, my God. The governor signed a bill that does not include exceptions for rape and incest. The governor goes on ABC News and says, don't know that we should agree with that, but like, he signed it into law, so it's trash. Okay? In the state of Missouri, you got a dirtbag like Representative Seitz, who's like, tubal pregnancies, ectopic pregnancies is, treatments, 30-year prison sentence. Like, this is not something that should be hard. This isn't. But I tell you what's making it hard. Well, I already told you what's making it hard. So look, if you're an activist and you're at the tip of the spear, maybe focus a little bit less about what's going on at the support staff, the shaft of the spear. Because that's how you scare voters away. Especially if you're already admitting that you're scaring away voters, or you're scaring away support. Yeah, this isn't good. This isn't something to be proud of. This isn't something to shake your fist as a success. Maybe worry more about taking down people like Asa Hutchinson, and a little less worried about people taking down performative protesters, because my God, they're on your side, and the majority rules. Do you not understand how democracy works? You need votes, you need voters, you need people. And some people don't have time to sit. Some people aren't affected by this at all. And that's okay. Some people are affected by this a little. Some people just now found out that they were affected by this even a little bit. Take the support when you can take it, because anything else is just bullshit. We're gonna take a quick break, jump right back into it. If day trading is too stressful, or you just don't want to deal with the volatility of the market, M1 Finance has got you covered. This easy-to-use trading platform basically lets you build your own index fund out of companies that you believe in. And if you use my link at chainsawccc.com/M1, M1 Finance will give you a free $30 just for signing up and funding your M1 account. Get started today, chainsawccc.com/M1. $30 is waiting for you, bro.